It's that time of the year when a lot of people are actually making the choices to leave their home countries, especially African people. The family members that were living abroad have come home for the holidays. Maybe it's their first holiday with family members in 4 years, and you're seeing how much money they have, and you're looking at them and you're like, oh my god, this person is literally living my dream. They have a lot of money, and you convince yourself that you want to go abroad. And actually, I did read a newspaper article quite recently. I did share it on my Instagram, where it was reported that the Kenyan government is getting a lot of money from the people who are living abroad, to a point that it is more profitable for the government to send people out than to create job opportunities. And what I was trying to argue in that post is the fact that black tax is very profitable, and there's actually no incentive for the Kenyan government to create jobs in the country when those people who go out there show that they can break their backs to send money, and that is more profitable than creating jobs. Anyway, that is not what we're talking about today. I really want to share some of the things that I wish I knew before I went to France myself. Because if we are going to be talking about, send people to go abroad to work so they can send money, we should also be talking about the things that people should prepare so that you don't get there and you're stuck, especially mentally, because now you're like, oh my god, what's happening here? And you know, a lot of people never really believe about the realities of abroad, because in Kenyan society, in African society, there's always this fantasy that is attached to life abroad. Regardless, I think it's important for people like me who have lived abroad and have also come back to share our experiences. It's sort of a civil responsibility, I would say. And so let's get right into it. And the first thing that I wish I knew and understood before I left Kenya for France is the fact that when you're going to a new country, you're not going there to start from scratch. You are starting from the negative. All the achievements that you've accumulated in your African country, when you get to a lot of these countries, especially the Western countries, all of that is just deemed as useless, because a lot of them do not believe that, one, Africans are educated and that Africans can contribute to the important things in their society. That's why one of the popular ways of going to these countries is going through school, because once you have a degree from their schools, then they will give you the benefit of the doubt. But when you've done all your schooling in your African country and then you go there, my goodness, it's going to be tough. And even when you go to their own schools, you still have to work 1,000 times harder just to be near the level of your peers who were born in that country, for example. And if you do not understand this, you're going to have a lot of resentment, because you will realize very quickly that no one takes you seriously. Number two, you have to understand that this is going to be largely a lonely experience. And a lot of the times, the people that you're leaving behind in your home country will be of little help to you. Most people who are going abroad, they have no family in these countries they're going to. And that means you are navigating these new spaces on your own without support, mostly without financial support, without emotional support, without psychological support, without even people around you. You are all on your own. And the first times you will try to talk to people back home, telling them how this is difficult, how challenging this is, and people will not understand you, because again, majority of people equate life abroad to a fantasy. So when you're telling them about the challenges you're going through, they'll just be like, oh, this person is just making excuses, they're not able to handle it. And so you quickly realize that this is something that you will have to navigate on your own. And honestly, there's some things about living abroad that you can never really explain. Something like winter, let me tell you, that is something that you can't really explain to someone what winter is unless they experience it. It's not just cold, it's the kind of cold that seeps into your bones. This is the kind of cold that is spanning over months, 3 to 4 months continuously. There is not a break. I don't think you understand how difficult that is. And on top of that, you have to show up to work, you have to show up to school, you have to continue living as if the environment is not literally trying to kill you. That is not something that you can explain to people, especially in a country like Kenya that has such a great tropical climate all year round. And actually, most times crying yourself to sleep is going to be your reality. And you have to accept it, because you have to let go of all those feelings so that you don't end up being depressed. This is actually not funny. And this leads me to the fact that you're going to be tested in ways that you are not prepared for, in ways that you haven't even thought of. And as much as it's going to be difficult at first, I would say in hindsight, it actually makes you a better person, especially mentally. It really toughens you up. Even when I look at myself right now, like, there's nothing that scares me. There is no situation that you put me in that I'm like, oh my God, why is this happening? Or my feelings are all over the place. I am angry and frustrated. It's very difficult for me to get there. And this is because you go through a lot of different experiences, a lot of range of experiences when you're living abroad. And most of the times they're either high highs or low lows. In one instance, you could be in the city that people are dreaming about, like Paris. And in the second instance, you are in the airport and someone is putting fingers into your braids because they think that you are hiding drugs just because you're an African. You're the only person there whose hair is being searched. It's a lot of experiences that tend to be kind of extreme, and that really toughens you up. I remember recently I was at Huduma Center and we were so many people and we were waiting for the service there. And a lot of people around me were complaining, oh my God, why is it taking so long? We were there for over 5 hours and I actually didn't feel frustrated because I expected it. It's not a shock anymore. I have dealt with the administrative structures in France, and as much as yes, they are more effective, they are just as stressful. Maybe it won't take you 5 hours to wait for a service, but best believe before you get that appointment, the kind of mental gymnastics you would have faced. And even when you listen to a lot more experiences of people in other countries, it just seems like dealing with governmental services always comes with a lot of headache. And these experiences just teach you to accept situations that you cannot change. Because yes, as much as it's not nice to be sitting for 5 hours waiting for a service, I mean, it also doesn't make sense for you to work yourself up to get angry. Who are you helping? Because you're the one that is causing unnecessary problems for yourself at the end of the day. The many challenges you go through abroad, they help you to become more accepting of life, I would say. But of course, it takes a lot of being beaten down by life for you to get there, and it's just good to prepare yourself mentally that you might face situations that you never really thought of. But you know what? You're actually going to surprise yourself because you are going to find ways of adapting to them or even solving those problems on your own, actually. An important thing to note is that you have to learn to be visible. I know, especially if you come from an African country, we've always been taught to be so humble, and you are obsessed with humility marathons. At each turn, you're always telling people, be humble, don't talk about yourself like this, you should be invisible. My goodness, if you're gonna go abroad, you need to learn to put yourself out there. Like, you have no other option, because if you're not visible, you're not gonna have a life there. And I'm saying that from experience. I didn't make myself visible enough. That's why I came back. You need to know how to sell your story, to tell your story, and create opportunities for yourself using your own story, because you're going to an environment that honestly looks down on you for being an African. You have to be able to show that you are the best of the best, even if you're not. You need to know how to get yourself into the door. No one is going to get you from your little house or from the street. You're the one that needs to take themselves to the places that you want to be, and you need to show that you are actually qualified to be there, even if you're not. You need to have that audacity. You need to forget all these things like, oh my God, but if I say this, what will they think about me? They think that you're nothing anyway. You need to stop being afraid of failure, because unfortunately for you, you've uprooted your entire life in your home country and you've gone to an entirely new one. You have so much to lose if you don't start advocating for yourself, if you don't start taking charge of your own life. Unfortunately for me, I understood this too late, and that's why the first thing that I did when I came back is I started filming from the village. I used to be one of these kinds of people who's like, oh my god, I don't want people to know that I'm from the village because they're gonna make fun of me. I used to care about people's perceptions. But seeing how I probably self-sabotaged myself out of a lot of great opportunities just because I wanted to be humble, just because I didn't want to be seen as trying too hard, that was a big wake-up call. And creating these videos right from the village really helped me to build an intolerance for shame and to not really care about what other people think about me, because I really understood one thing: my life is mine, and people are always going to think about you however they want, no matter what you do. As an African woman, or I would really say if you are a woman from the global south, because a lot of us have similar experiences, because our communities are really patriarchal, you're really going to like your life abroad, especially if you go to a lot of Western countries. And this is because you're finally going to have the opportunity to just be you. You're not someone's daughter, you're not someone's servant, you're not society's good girl, you're just you, and you can do whatever you want. You have this space to finally dream. You can literally do whatever you want. You can dress however you want, you can speak however you want, you can do your hair however you want. And no one is going to be there policing you. Oh my god, as a woman you should have been doing this, as a woman you shouldn't talk like that, you shouldn't dress like this, you shouldn't go to school because it intimidates men. There's nothing like that. And this new environment is actually going to give you a choice. You can either remain in the box that you've always been put in, or you can actually just get out of that box and live as you want. It's going to be your choice. But if you are an African man, my goodness, this is not going to be very easy for you. You will be going to an environment where you are going to be seen not as a man anymore, but a black man. And if you're always keeping up with the political climate, especially in these countries, then you know there are so many stereotypes that go along with being a black man. This basically means that you are going to environments where you are going to be treated as a threat. And that is going to be very difficult mentally, because it doesn't matter what you do, you are always going to be seen as a threat. You'll be the first suspect if something goes on around where you are. And this is going to be very difficult because from your African country, you've been enjoying king status. You're treated as a king. You can many times do whatever you want without being questioned. And then you're finding yourself in an environment where you're literally being watched 24/7, where every move you make is being watched. You're always being treated like a suspect. And this aspect of always being watched everywhere you go, being surveilled, it also applies to women, African women, when they move to these countries. But it's not as bad, because remember, when you are in a lot of these patriarchal African countries, as a woman, everything you do is being watched. Like how you dress, how you eat, how you talk to people, who you're talking to. So when you go to these Western countries, you're literally being watched for being a black person, not how you dress, not how you talk. So you're actually going to a better environment because the surveillance is less. And that's why it's easy for you to fly. It's also great to remember that it's not going to be easy to make friends. Most times you will make a lot of international friends, but they will be temporary because a lot of them will leave and go to other countries or go back to their home countries. And if you're someone that wants to stay long term in that country you've chosen, you're gonna have to make a lot of compromises and find the time to integrate yourself in community spaces, to learn the culture, learn the language, so that you can make friends with the native people in that country. And you'll even be surprised to know that it's actually not that easy to make friends with the people from your home country, because everyone is hustling, one, and two, you might also notice that maybe you're not in the same mental space, especially if you're someone who is ambitious and you want to do a lot of great things in that country. Unfortunately, a lot of people, I would use the example of Kenya, a lot of people from Kenya who go to a lot of these countries, they have these limiting beliefs about what they can do. A lot of people who believe that, oh my god, you shouldn't have a lot of dreams because you should be grateful that you were even allowed into this country, and they want you to just be contented, you know, with doing a cleaning job, with doing the babysitting job. But maybe you are someone who wants to start a unicorn company. You know, it's not going to be easy to find like-minded people, and it's going to mean that you have to go the extra mile and find the spaces that you're looking for. If it's professionally, there are so many spaces that you can be in, but you have to get comfortable with probably being the only African in that space, or just being the only Kenyan. It's also important to note that culture shock is a very complicated process, and it has different stages: the honeymoon stage, the crisis stage, the recovery stage, and then the adaptation phase. Because you're going to a country that already has its own culture, obviously you're going to get some culture shock, but these stages of culture shock are not going to happen how you might think. I used to think it would be like, oh, 3 months honeymoon, and then 3 months the crisis stage, and then 3 months. My goodness, for me, I remember honeymoon took only 1 month, and the crisis stage, you know, the part where you're actually negotiating with yourself, because you're like, my goodness, did I make a bad choice to come here? You start getting homesick. That took a long time. That took like 2 years, and this is exacerbated by, you know, the discrimination that you're facing, by you're trying so hard to try to understand the culture, and then finding yourself being told that, oh, you're not doing good enough. I remember going to interviews and doing the interviews in French, and then you go through 3 stages of interview. Then they look like, oh, they're going to offer you the job. They're even speaking as if they've already given you the job. And then you get an email where they're telling you, oh, we want a native French speaker, even though the role was advertised for someone who is not a native French speaker and someone who speaks perfect English. Those kinds of experiences will make the crisis stage of culture shock much longer, and these feelings of resentment that you have to deal with. And then once you're able to surmount that, you'll find yourself at the recovery, when you start accepting your situation. But that could also take a few years. Actually, I stayed in France for almost 4 years, but I never got to the adaptation phase. And so it's really important to understand something like that, so that you don't stress yourself for no reason. And there's some people who literally adapt in like 1 year. They've already gone through the entire process and they've adapted, and they just feel like, you know, they're the native people in just 1 year. This is really an experience that's also going to teach you so much about you and how you deal with situations. I used to be the kind of person that used to take it so personally when I went through something, you know, like that interview experience. But now I've learned to detach myself from such things. And for you to really live a great life, it's really important for you to be realistic and also delusional at the same time. You need to be realistic so that you can create systems and foundations that work for you as per your situation, as you work towards the dreams that you have. And you also need to be delusional so that you can believe that the dreams that you're working towards are real, are things that you'd be able to achieve, despite being in an environment or a season where you feel like everything is stacked against you. And this brings me to one of the most controversial things. Black tax is actually a choice. This is something that I inherently believe. And when I say from the previous point about being realistic and creating systems, black tax is part of that. You need to really understand why you are participating in black tax if you are, because majority of people, they're like, oh my god, but I need to help people back home. But you're doing that because you want the approval of people back home, because you are buying their affection. You want to stay relevant in their lives. Yes, I do understand taking care of elderly parents that are now disabled. I do understand sending money for hospital bills. But when you're just sending money to people who are able-bodied, who are healthy, then these people are taking that money and they just put it into gambling, into alcohol, and then over time they become entitled to your money. They're like, oh my god, why haven't you sent us money this month? Or they start asking for more money because you are the ATM. Those kinds of people do not need your money. But you know what? That is a choice that you have to make. The part of this issue that a lot of people don't talk about is how black tax is holding a lot of people abroad back. Because whatever money you're getting, you are sending to people back home, and you yourself, you're not creating any cushions for yourself in the event that things don't go well over there. And I can tell you for a fact, if things don't go well for you, you're going to be abandoned by those people you were sending money to. I know this because when I left abroad and went to live in the village, these same people who are always being like, oh, send me money, this and this and this and this, those were the same people who are calling me a failure. And a lot of them treated me like I would have been better dead than them seeing me in the village. I remember just thinking, oh my God, imagine I would have been breaking my back to send money to people that don't even care for me as a human being. Like, they only see the value or your value through monetary value. Those are not the kinds of people you should be having in your life. But anyway, that's a choice. So you can decide to break your back and use all that money to finance other people's lifestyles while you're living yourself out in the cold. Or you can decide to be called a bad person by other people, but build a strong foundation for yourself so that in a few years you're able to support more people. I've been speaking for quite some time now, but we are getting almost to the end. You need to accept that the moment you get on that plane to leave, there is no guarantee that you're ever going to see your family members or your loved ones. And this sounds scary, but it's the reality. The number of people whose parents passed away, siblings passed away, spouses passed away, and they weren't even able to come for the funerals because of visa issues, because they didn't have the money. You know, the thing about such situations, they leave you with a lot of guilt and they affect you mentally. This is why, just going back briefly to the last point about sending money back home, ensure that you are building up an emergency fund just in case a situation like this happens. And so before you leave the country, maybe spend a lot more time with your family members. Be intentional about it. Or if you're not able to do it, make peace with the fact that, you know, you might never see them again. And finally, the last one, you need to study the law of the country you're going into, and you also need to understand the social and political climate of the country you're going into. I know a lot of people are always like, oh my God, but it doesn't concern me. It concerns you, absolutely. It's really important so that you don't find yourself in problems. Things like speeding on a road that doesn't even have anyone will get you a ticket because they do have cameras that will catch you. You think that no one is watching, you are being watched. And you will pay. Things like, you know, going to this illegal website to download movies. Do you know that's illegal in a lot of these Western countries? I know in a place like France or even Germany, when you go to these sites, you will be fined and you will get the letter in your mailbox. You've been fined $1,000. Yeah, because you went to where they call the torrents or whatever. My goodness, I've been speaking for 50 minutes. 50. How many minutes is this going to be after I edit it? Probably 20 minutes. The fact that I'm able to be so cutthroat with myself when I'm editing my own videos is something so commendable. And actually, this is something that I have learned from being abroad, you know, the detaching myself. Even that is a skill that I'm able to apply everywhere, because yes, now as I'm speaking like this, I allow myself to say whatever is on my mind. But when I'm editing, I detach myself from this person that is speaking, this creative, and I become an editor. And it means that anything that I said here, if it doesn't make sense, it's gone. If it doesn't need to be there, it's gone. Because at the end of the day, the strategist me that is in charge of this brand that I'm creating wants a brand that brings value, because I know that you've taken time out of your day to watch this, and I do not take that for granted. So I want to ensure that I'm making it worthwhile, that you're actually getting what you came here for through the title and the thumbnail. And if you're just going by that, I would say going abroad is going to be something that really teaches you a lot about yourself. And so it could be a great chance for you. So maybe take the chance if you have it, but also be very prepared mentally. And I hope that this episode has helped you to learn a few things here and there to help you in your mental preparation for when you go abroad.